By the very nature of its roots in the amazing Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider was already well on its way to being a great game. I was overjoyed to drop back into the city of Karnaca and try on a new set of supernatural assassin abilities, even if the things I did there weren't quite as compelling this time around. Death of the Outsider puts you in control of the charming but troubled Billy Lurk. She's helping her now old and dying mentor Dowd get revenge on the Outsider, the black-eyed god behind all the magic happening since the Dishonored series began. The story is pretty straightforward as they hunt for a mystical MacGuffin item that can kill the Outsider, but it's still a satisfying end to the 5-year arc that started with the first Dishonored. Your movement ability this time around is a clever new spin on teleportation called Displace, which drops a ghostly image of yourself that you can warp to at will. It can be used to pull off some cool tricks, like setting your ghost on a ledge, dropping down to pickpocket someone, then immediately teleporting back to safety. Displace is complemented by Foresight, Billy's brilliant replacement for Dark Vision. Foresight freezes time and lets you fly around the map, marking targets and scouting the area. What makes Foresight so great is that it gets rid of the need to constantly check for enemies in the ugly but irresistibly overpowered world of Dark Vision. I would use Foresight, take a look around, mark enemies, then confidently play through the area in my regular view. The third and final ability is Semblance, which lets you knock people out and steal their faces. It's an interesting ability with some gorgeous visual effects accompanying it, but when I used it, I usually found myself running out of energy out in the open with nowhere to hide. All 3 abilities are exciting, but felt a bit played out by the end of the roughly 8-hour campaign. Apart from a new attack, there were no new abilities or items to unlock after the first mission, and there's no way to upgrade or alter your powers except for a few bone charms that don't make a radical difference. Thankfully, Death of the Outsider makes a few changes that allow more freedom to use abilities. Your void energy automatically refills instead of needing to be replenished by elixirs, letting me get reckless and fast with my displace jumps. That was empowering. The other huge change is that the choice between going lethal or non-lethal no longer has any effect on the game world or the outcome of the story. It was refreshing to be able to make a mistake and not feel the immediate need to quick load. But it also undermines the allure of a full non-lethal approach, as it's now more of a self-imposed challenge rather than a rewarded playstyle. There also aren't any targets as you'd think of them in the other Dishonored games. There are named characters that you usually need to steal something from, like the extortionist bank director Dolores Michaels, but whether you leave them dead or alive is mostly irrelevant. The levels these characters reside in are much more interesting. They're wonderfully detailed, with care and creativity poured into every nook and cranny. I particularly liked the conservatory mission, which takes place in what felt like a large museum controlled by overseers, with glass cases full of animals and oddities scattered all over it. None of the levels are standout successes like Dishonored 2's Clockwork Mansion, but they're still a joy to explore. It was wonderful to have more Dishonored to play, even if Death of the Outsider doesn't quite meet the high bar Dishonored 2 set in story or mission design. Even though it's a shorter and slightly shallower game, there are some exciting new abilities, and the lack of lethal consequence further encourages experimentation and freedom. All in all, it's a worthy end to the story that began 5 years ago. For more, check out the first 22 minutes of Death of the Outsider, a rundown of Billy's new abilities, and our Dishonored 2 review. And for everything else, stay right here on IGN.